Welcome to Colney Talk Podcast.
Hello everyone, hope you're having a fantastic day. Welcome to another exciting episode of Colney Talk Podcast, your byte-sized breakdown show. I'm your host Alex. First time listeners, glad to have you here. And to my returning guests, thank you for sticking with me. As always, I talk a bit about the Arsenal match and pick out my top 3 Arsenal players who shined and one odd player not good enough I get to call out. Today I dive into Arsenal's electric clash against Leicester City at the Emirates. I don't want to call this team a boogie team to play against, but I always have this uncomfortable feeling about them because the stats always show that we should take care of business easily, but there's always that moments and situations that we are crawling and hanging on to the last 9 minutes to claim the 3 points, and it felt like that in this game. Against Leicester, I mean, the Gunners, they demonstrated their sheer will to claim the victory at the dying minutes of this match. I mean, we are the ones delivering the same feeling like we did against City the last time. So it was a good feel. It was a roller coaster nonetheless because it was filled with moments that kept me on the edge of my seat with excitement a lot more, and then confusion, frustration, and then all of a sudden thinking otherwise. And that's just what I mean when we're playing against this team. First, looking at the lineup, the only notable change for me was glad to see Trossard, back after his suspension, and then Ben White was not in the squad today, which to me is good, where he can have extra recovery time and we don't really have a need to put him on the field, necessary, because we have enough players to, cover for him efficiently. So that's a plus. From the kickoff, Arsenal's intent was very clear. The Gunners began the game passing the ball with fluidity. That's what we know. And they kept Leicester pinned back, struggling to find any room to breathe. It was interesting. The ball was moving through the gears, and you could feel the pressure building with Arsenal peppering Leicester. They just didn't give them any breathing room. We're putting the squeeze on them to break the deadlock in the opening minutes. It was very clear we wanted to score at least within the first 15 minutes of the first half. And our passing was simply a joy to behold. Like precise, purposeful, and relentless. The speed at the recycling, though, that was intense. That was, another level that I hadn't seen, because recycling the ball, you would want to have the players back in the same position and, going through the same, moments of having a pull back or, across in the back of the net with someone, heading the ball in. But our players were in the same position, or they were interchanging without any stop, and that was great. I mean, it was Arsenal all gas, no brakes in around the box, and Martinelli was the one clearly leading the charge with that. One standout aspect of this, demonstration that Arsenal had early on was the movement from Calafiori on the left. His forward runs were refreshing to see. This we've not seen a lot from the squad, and giving us that extra edge in attack. And more notably for me, though, Martinelli driving on the ball with heightened boldness and testing Leicester's defensive concentration constantly, I think had that effects of how the interchangeable movements between himself, it was just clear. And I think there was that level of freedom that Martinelli had, because he knew that once Calafiori gets on the ball, he's going to, lay it off to Martinelli to run through or something. But that combination was very evident, and that's how the attack really showed up early in the game. And that fluidity showed itself throughout the game, and it felt like we were bound to score. And sure enough, Martinelli, that you've heard me talk about so much now, finally put us ahead with a confident strike, which gave him the boost he needed. But it wasn't just about scoring. It was the mental lift we could see from him after an early chance that he narrowly missed. It was great to see him convert that. He has had that intent to score, the breakthroughs, the chances that he's missed quite often. I'm glad he was able to convert in this other opportunity. So that was us 1-0, and we kept the intensity up. It continued, and Trossard got in on the action over time as we kept trying to score, and we kept on the gas, pressing on, and Trossard punching in a crucial second goal before halftime to give us a comfortable 2-0 cushion. Our attacking resets were brilliant. As I said, we were recycling possession effectively, ensuring that Leicester had no way at all in any way to break off or get off the blocks. They couldn't get off the ropes at all. This was a classic Arteta ball in terms of attacking with intent and composure, because we scored second and then we were now going up another gear for a second goal. That was amazing. I mean, the passing around Leicester's third kept them pinned back. They really struggled to manage that, and that's a first in this season for me to really see Arsenal do this. And mind you, we don't even have all our players. In fact, the main man Odegaard to effect it this way, but they did a brilliant job in the first half, and that was great. And defensively, Arsenal had less of any effort to contest, within our box, because Leicester had no answers from the pressures that we had put, and we only ramped up as we kept going from that first goal. And that's how we controlled much of this first half. It felt like we were destined to, see out a clean, dominant performance, and the 2-0 lead we had was a reasonable indication for that. But, as football is never a straightforward reality, that's exactly what happened, especially in the Premier League. The second half took a strange turn when Leicester found themselves back in the game with a fortunate deflected free kick, making it 2-1. All right, fine. We knew some things like that could happen, but I'm sure the home crowd went a bit quiet. Suddenly, Arsenal needed to do more to kill this game off, because that's now what it was, at least after the 2-0 lead into the half. I just said to myself, let's kill this game off. I think that's the expectations, for most fans. So that's, Leicester getting themselves back in the game with 2-1. Now, despite the setback, Martinelli and Saka kept using their dribbling and blistering pace to a great effect, finding positions to exploit Leicester's defensive gaps. There were a few breakaway runs that had Leicester on the back foot, but somehow that keeper, he deserves some flowers for this game, because he managed to deny us time and time again. I mean, I think many folks watching this game took notice, because he did a lot. And meanwhile, the combination of Saka and Timber on the right was a joy to watch as well. The aggressive drive that they had, it was free flowing, and it gave Saka that confidence, like he wasn't missing Ben White in a bad way, and Saka offloading several dangerous shots. He really was determined to score, but he had enough effects in this game that, what he was doing was just enough, but he wanted more, and, big ups to him. The two of them, Saka and Timber, they were relentless, keeping Leicester's defense on high alert and carving out opportunities. That right side, it is dangerous through and through. I mean, if you swap out Timber and put Ben White, the feeling is just the same, if not more. But Timber, he's something else. So, with all that going on, it was still 2-1. Yet Leicester, having sensed a glimmer of hope, had a brief spell where they managed to test Raya. Around the 60th minute, they took advantage of a few laps from our midfield in terms of defense, and they had a couple of decent shots on target. And just like that, the mood shifted even further when Leicester managed to equalize 2-2. I didn't know what to think about that. I mean, going back and looking at it, Calafiori could have done a better job in defending there, or at least closing that down, or a combination of himself and Trossard, communicating on that. And it felt like we went from cruising to falling apart in a matter of minutes, because, as I said, throughout the game leading up to the 90th minute, when I saw Leicester have a couple of shots at Raya, they barely did anything. We held them down all the way into the third. They couldn't come out of the blocks. But all that, again, as I said, it's football. If it translates to goals, great. The stats will be what it is, but that's nothing to the score sheet. And the nerves were palpable, and the pressure was truly on for Arsenal to respond. We had to do more than we were doing, even after we had our gears up. And this wasn't just about tactics anymore. It was about character. Playing possessed football this time. We kept attacking. And at this point, I think we had about 11 corners deep in the second half. So we tried several things. We had good chances. We should have been at least two goals up even at this point. And we constantly were putting Leicester under the cosh. The sheer number of missed chances was maddening. Enough luck for them. And on the other hand, as we were dealing with this, Calafiori almost found himself with the second yellow after a foul that could have turned the game into a disaster. Because I held my breath there for a little bit. And for a moment, it seemed like Leicester might actually walk away with a point, which would have been a much rather frustrating part for me to come on and really discuss, because it was looking like that. We were gone past 90, and it was not looking very promising. But thank goodness for the W's, right? I mean, now I have a lot of relief and joy to share with you. I mean, that's exactly how we expected this whole outcome until we found ourselves fighting for those points. But as we entered the final minutes, something really did change. A few subs, and let me just say, Ethan Nwaneri, we have a lot to see from this young boy, but I'm not going to put a lot of pressure on him. It's just hope and encouragement and support, because that he came with some spark. And Arsenal's persistence began to pay off. Corner after corner, attack after attack, we were pounding Leicester's goal. Then, a stroke of brilliance, Trossard pulled off a moment of magic in the added time. He buried the ball in the back of the net, sending the Emirates into pure craziness. I was going, yes, finally. The pressure of thinking that we were going to walk away with a point, no, that was completely gone. It was a well-earned late reward for all the pressure we had been building. And just like that, Arsenal had the lead again, 3-2. I was like, yeah, game over. We've done. I mean, that's now we've done what we're supposed to do. We shouldn't have kept this game like this, but it is what it is. But the momentum was fully with us, and Leicester looked deflated. But there was more. Arsenal wasn't done. In the final moments, Havertz, his sheer hustle resulted in a fourth goal. And that really slammed the door shut, ensuring that we walked away with all the 3 points, with all the drama that we had, dealt with. That was an extra bonus for me to say. The final score read 4-2. Could you imagine, in the few minutes when everything just turned? But that doesn't tell the full story of this game, because the drama, the tension, and ultimately the elation that I experienced, I can't dictate how I want to experience wins from Arsenal, but this is a good one, definitely. So it was a very good game to enjoy. Now let me jump into my top performers for this game. First up, Bukayo Saka. I mean, the engine of attack. Yeah, debatable between himself and Martinelli, because they were just on fire. Saka was outstanding from start to finish. He was constantly creating chances, moving through the gears when needed, and working tirelessly alongside Timber to stretch Leicester's defense. If you close your eyes and watch this game, you would think I'm describing Martinelli, because it was very similar. He peppered their goal with shots and looked like the most dangerous player on the pitch, which I think Saka really was in this game. And Saka's expected threat was the highest among all players, and he was instrumental in dictating the rhythm of our attack. Second player, Jurgen Timber, the wall and the playmaker. Timber was immense in defense and made a huge contribution going forward. He was composed under pressure, completing at least 94% of his passes or more. That's crazy. And offering an outlet on the right flank. His chemistry with Saka was huge, and he ensured that Leicester's attackers had very little space, to operate, because him on the right and Saliba right next to him, I mean, good luck. His tackles were crucial. That first goal, in fact, started with him when Saliba recovered the ball and, passed it on to Timber to do the rest. So in terms of winning possession, that was amazing. Third and final player, the game changer, Trossard. Back after his suspension, delivered when it mattered the most. Not only did he score the crucial second goal, but, in giving us that cushion in the first half, but his late goal in the added time was simply magical. It just gave us a lead, sparking the celebrations that was well needed for this weekend. I mean, we did not expect to have anything else but the W, and we got it thanks to him. So his second goal in this game was second only to Saka's contribution all around in this game, and that was intense. That was amazing. There's stronger debate now to figure out how they would manage to keep both himself and Martinelli on the pitch at the same time. So yeah, big ups to him, and full kudos in how he played. Well, the way the game started and now the way the game ended, really hard to find an odd player. A few miss chances, poor concentration moments, it's not worthy of a candidate for an odd player. So I really don't have any to call out, and I'm not going to nitpick just for the sake of it. So no odd player today. What stood out for me today above all was the maturity that we talk about for this Arsenal team went another level. I mean, there was a point where it seemed like we were slipping, and Leicester having the chance to walk away with a point at the Emirates. But yeah, the boys dug deep and just took care of business. We dictated the rhythm when it mattered the most and showed that composure to overcome adversity, because they definitely had to do that. It was about pushing through and responding with resilience and pulling out a result. And at one point, when we got into those final minutes, it didn't look like they cared it. They just had to keep going until the final whistle. And that was amazing to see the boys, display such determination. I mean, it wasn't just about attacking flair, but also about handling moments of pressure with composure. We were relentless all through, moving through the gears, determined not to let this slip for a 1-point game. The belief was there until the very end, and when it mattered, we delivered. This is the kind of game that tells you something about this team and where the squad is headed. Willing to fight back. We've done that in defensive situation, and now we're doing it in an attacking situation, and we clawed back into from turning a situation that was from a near disaster into celebration. So that's big applause for them. What a match, from comfort to chaos and back again to ecstasy. This was a game that had it all. The final score of 4-2, it really reflected the fight that we showed, and the boys, they showed up really well. Arsenal are growing as a team when we have our players that are still trying to get back fully healed and can only dominate, but also can respond to adversity and, display in a very brilliant manner. Well, that's it for this episode of Colney Talk Podcast. Arsenal did the job, proved their worth, and once again made it clear why there's enough to believe in this team in this season and how far they're going to go. Thanks for listening, and I hope to see you next time. Until then, keep the faith and keep cheering. Come on, you guys.